Welcome, friends. Wonderful to have you here. Just give it a minute as people come in from the waiting room. Delighted to be here with you today to share some tea. Maybe you have a cup of tea or other warm beverage with you. I have my little chai herbal tea with me. And you'd be most welcome to put in the chat where you are joining us from. Always wonderful to read that. And if you are new, yeah, you could also put in, I noticed Melinda mentioned her lavender tea. You can say where you're joining us from. If you want to share your tea too, that's always lovely little inspiration. And yeah, and if you're new to either Tea with the Abbess or just new to the Abbey, it would be lovely to know that too. You're very, very welcome here. And in case you are new, I'm Christine Valters Painter, and I am the online abbess of Abbey of the Arts. We've been around for about 18 years now and love that we are able to connect in this virtual way across time and space. And an Abbey of the Arts is devoted to the integration of contemplative practice and creative expression. The contemplative threads that we primarily draw on are the desert, Celtic, and Benedictine wisdom of the Christian mystical tradition, but we are very open to conversations with other threads, lineages, traditions, and of course the arts. We bring in poetry and music and writing and movement as much as we can. And we partner with a whole wonderful team of people who are also fully committed to this work and to showing up for you and for all of us together. There's such a beautiful sense of community, even in this virtual space, of knowing that we're all dancing monks. And all you have to do to be a dancing monk is to want to be a dancing monk. And even if you don't like to dance, you can still be a dancing monk. And even if you're not sure you're a monk, you can still be a dancing monk. So we don't hold too uh, rigidly to any kind of rules around here. Um, so yeah, so our time today, I'm excited to share with you uh, some a time of prayer and meditation together, and then I'll share a little bit about some of the programs that are coming. It's lovely. We kind of run on an academic year in terms of our programs, so I had a lovely break during July, as did Melinda and John, and we're ready to come back and be with you in this sacred space. So the first thing I'm going to share with you is a beautiful video. It's about 3 minutes long. It's a blessing video for Lunasa. And this video was created by an Irish poet named Grace Wells. And she was actually commissioned to create a video for each of the 4 Celtic turning points of the year. So if you're not familiar with Lunasa, Lunasa is falls on August 1st and is the one of the thresholds or turning points, or what are known as cross-quarter days in the Celtic calendar. And it's all of these turning points are considered to be threshold moments, doorways that open to new possibility and invite us into to ponder the invitation of the season. And so Luna says, sort of the very first tastings of autumn, and she will talk about summer and the fullness of summer. It has that energy of like the peak of summer and then the very sort of first feelings of autumn. And today here in Ireland, it's very gray and cloudy, and I even wanted to put on my warm shawl and have my warm cup of tea. So I'm very happy as someone who loves autumn. So I invite us to begin by taking a couple of nice slow breaths and beginning to arrive to this space, to feel yourself, your body here, in this moment, and to bring love and compassion to any places in your body that might be tight or holding tension or have pain. And see if you might just bring your breath to those places. And something I've been experimenting with lately is, instead of breathing right into the pain, is to breathe around the pain and to create a sense of spaciousness around that, around any places of holding or tightness or discomfort, and really welcoming in whatever you're experiencing now. You don't have to show up here in any particular way, that you're welcome as you are. And so allowing a moment to simply welcome yourself, the fullness of yourself here, whatever you're feeling. If there's anything in you that you want to push away, see if you might just turn with some compassion and welcome that part in. And then taking a moment to connect to this turning wheel of the year, this spiral journey that we're all on, and how we keep visiting these turning points again and again. And at this point of Lunasa, you're invited to reflect on the gifts and graces of your life, and to reflect on the harvest, and to reflect, as Grace Wells is going to say in her blessing video, on the gifts of an ample world. Ample world. I love that word, ample. So I invite you to receive this blessing as a prayer to begin our time.
Lunasa, gratitude, the festival for harvest. Long, generous days where the light hardly ends. Time of Anya, goddess of summer. Time of Lu, god of light. Long Lunasa days that so slowly surrender to the linger of evening. Lunasa nights of fire and music. Nights white with the harvest moon. The earth at her fullest, summer at her height. In the fields, the herds increase. The air, a trace of lark and swallow. Her gardens in harvest. Her gardens a posy of blossom and butterfly. Nothing to ask for, nothing to prove. Days of shelter and ease. Days spacious enough for appreciation. Each a harvest festival. Each a prayer. I shake off the thankless mind. I ease open my summer heart. I disengage from the addictions of my time. I count my gifts. I thank my lucky stars. My prayer, a song of praise to the ample world.
So taking a moment to breathe in those images, both the spoken ones that Grace shared as well as the visual images. And noticing where that sense of fullness might settle in your body. Where do you feel that in your body being? That sense of ampleness. And I'm going to invite us into a breath prayer that arises out of this blessing video. So in breath prayer, it's such a simple yet beautiful practice of marrying a phrase to the inhale and the exhale. And my suggestion is to make that prayer that Grace offered into our prayer. I praise the ample world. On the inhale, I praise. On the exhale, the ample world. And so I invite you, we're just going to take a few moments in the silence to practice this on our own. So with every in-breath, I praise. With every out-breath, the ample world. And as you pray these words and you let the breath carry you in and out, see if you might cultivate that sense of praise within you and that sense of ampleness and fullness. See if there are moments around you in your memory and experience of these last few days, or just accessible right in the room, in your body, where you can feel this sense of ampleness. So let's practice this together for a few moments in the quiet, inhaling, I praise, exhaling the ample world, and continuing on your own. And then letting your breath come back to a natural rhythm, letting go of words, phrases, and simply resting for a moment again in awareness of your body. Just noticing if there's any shiftings or openings or closings. Just meeting whatever that is with love, with compassion. And then we're going to move into some Lectio Divina practice together here in a moment with a poem. And then there'll be a little bit of time for some writing and I'll give you a little prompt, just a little time of reflection. And the poem is one that I wrote about Saint Dervla. Some of you will be familiar with this story. She is one of the women saints, mystics of the Irish tradition. I think she's around 6th century. I can't remember. I'm terrible with dates, but anyway, she's a long time ago. And back in a time when women were, of course, betrothed to men for, positioning of money and power with their families. And Dervla had a suitor, and it said that the story says that she went running from County Meath to County Mayo, which is basically across the country of Ireland, fleeing from this man who was, in love with her, presumably. And he follows her, though, all the way to Mayo. He's very persistent, and and she says, she stops finally running. She gets to the edge of the country. She stops there and she says, why do you want to marry me? What is it? What are you so obsessed with? And he says, oh, your eyes are so beautiful. And so this next part might be a little bit hard to hear, but what Dervla does, and this is not the only story of a woman saint who does this kind of thing to get out of getting married, but she plucks out her own eyes. She just plucks them out. That's what the story tells us, at least. And he is horrified, understandably so, and he goes running. So that is resolved for Dervla. And in that very place where she plucks out her eyes, a holy well gushes forth, and Dervla blesses herself, and her eyes are healed. Her eyes are restored. There are a lot of stories like this, and St. Bridget had a similar. Well, St. Bridget disfigured her face to get rid of a suitor. So I think we can see the patriarchy at work in these stories, and we can see the power that women had to at least assert themselves in some way, and we can see the way in these stories that the divine is cooperating with this feminine desire to find her own path, which I think is a pretty powerful aspect of these stories. So what I'd like to do now is invite you into a poetic version of this story. And for me, part of why I shared that blessing video, of course, we had Lunasa a couple weeks ago, and we're in the, even though Lunasa was celebrated August 1st, it's really a whole season, a whole 6 weeks long. So we're still in that Lunasa time, that sense of praising the ample world. And this story of Dervla for me is so much about learning to see in new ways, because as you'll see in the poem, when her vision is restored, right, she sees the world in new ways. And we're always, I think, invited over and over again, if we're on this contemplative path, to continue to cultivate our ability to see beneath the surface of things, to see the shimmering of the world. So what I'd like to do is invite us back into this interior space, and again to find your breath, or to let your breath find you, and to let your awareness drop into your heart. And as I read this poem, I invite you to listen for a word or a phrase that shimmers for you or calls to you in some way. St. Dervla's eyes. Fleeing from Meath to Mayo, her betrothed gave chase. She turned to face him, ask what he loved about her. Your eyes, came in ardent reply. So she plucked them out, each a perfect orb, cool in her hands like beads, and in horror he fled. She stood there smiling, surprising even herself. Relief rushed down her limbs. She bent over the well, splashed her face and those hollow sockets with scent of mineral and moss, sight restored in a flash. She looked at the world as if for the first time she could finally see how her God was always on the side of freedom, how everything glistens, and how we must risk everything, trust we were meant for this, as if telling the truth for the first time, as if our hearts had been plucked out too and set ablaze for all the world to see. So I invite you to just see if there's a word or phrase that's shimmering or calling to you, inviting a little more attention, and to just let that echo in your heart for a moment. And then to let that word or phrase begin to unfold in your imagination. So, opening to memories, images, feelings, whatever it is that might be wanting to arise in this prayer, create a welcoming space for it. And then opening your heart to any sense of invitation that might be coming through today's prayer. Is there a summons to some kind of new awareness? So, opening your heart to whatever that might be, knowing that this story is meeting you in your life right where you are right now. And then letting go of words and images for just a moment to breathe and rest into the stillness, to let yourself be held by the beloved, to simply rest into being rather than doing. And then invite you into a writing invitation if you would like to. You can simply rest into the stillness and close your eyes and just let these images keep working on your heart if you'd prefer. But an invitation for you right now is to scan your room for something ordinary that you would usually overlook, and then write about it with all of your senses attuned and aware, all six of them, and letting your eyes see new dimensions of it. So, see where that takes you. And we're going to take a little 5 minute pause here. You can also spend the time just writing a reflection on what you've experienced in your prayers so far. So let's rest into this practice together. taking a moment to just bring whatever you're working on to a place of rest and invite you to put a line in the chat if there's something that you've written that you're willing to share, or an image that came to you through the meditation earlier. Either of those would be welcome. It's so enriching to read what is stirring in each of you, unfolding in your hearts. And while you do that, I'll just take a moment to look through the chat. We've got people from all over. How wonderful. Thank you, everyone, for being here today with me and joining me with tea. And we've got someone, Terry, who just found Abbey the Arts a month ago. Love the music. Wonderful. Thankfully, dancing is a heart state rather than action. Yes, we can dance in so many ways, and dancing in the mind and the heart and the spirit is very, very welcome. Let's see. And Mish, I'm new to the Abbey, drinking with water with cucumber and fruit juice. I love that. I've just started reading The Artist's Rule, and that's how I came across you. Very good. Welcome. Welcome, welcome, everyone. Beautiful. And thank you, Melinda, for putting in Anya's name. Anya is the goddess of summer here in Ireland. None of the Irish words are pronounced the way they look. So I've tried to learn Irish and I know a number of words, but it is a hard, hard language. So let's see. Bounty of greens and beans and blueberries, trees and swallows flying. So grateful to be here now. This is my home, the only one I have left. Embrace it, praise it, love it, and let it love you back. Telling the truth for the first time. The ordinary for me is unordinary. Everything listens resonated with me and brought a beautiful new awareness of accepting differences. God is a God of freedom. Love the Dervla poem. Telling the truth for the first time. Yes, I get that. How ample to me helped me to see how my world, I just lost it. Sorry. My chat just sort of went haywire. Here we go. See how my world is enough. Beautiful. And Lee says that here for the first time, recently joining the Abbey. Wonderful. Welcome. And Susan, who went on pilgrimage with me several years ago. I remember. Beautiful. I love that. Yes, the age of the seasons when we could gather also in person in Ireland. I thought about what it means to belong and not belong, belong everywhere and nowhere, belong to everyone and no one, the essence of joyous freedom. I love that. An interesting insight for me. Freedom is in God, not in running away. These are all beautiful. The dolls created by my mother, her best friend, and my grandmother, a testament of love, a challenge to continue the tradition. Lovely. I'll read a couple more here. Set ablaze for all the world to see, very powerful for me to be seen, to stand in the light. Can I open my heart just a little to allow the fountain to just be, and slow faith and trust and lost long ago? But the fountain knows better. It holds faith and trust and waits for me. Wonderful. Gosh, do you hear all the wisdom here? It's amazing. I love it. I love all that we offer to one another here. So thank you for that. And thank you for all that you've shared. And we will include the chat with the recording in our little portal. So I'll come back to a couple of these if we have time at the end, but I wanted to share a little bit about some of our programs coming up, and you're welcome to ask any questions in the chat that you might have. Let me share my screen. The first I'm going to share about is our Sustainer Circle. And we are incredibly grateful to those of you who have the financial resources to be able to offer us some extra support. And the Sustainer Circle is a great choice if you want access to a number of programs over the year. And Melinda, if you go to our Abbey the Arts webpage and click on the calendar, you can access the page for that. And basically, the Sustainer Circle supports our financial access. So we have a philosophy of making all of our programs accessible to everyone, regardless of financial means. And it's a way of creating a little more kind of equitable participation because we want you here. And so if you need extra scholarship support, most of our programs have a sliding scale. If you need extra scholarship support, sorry, I'm having trouble with my words. Um, you are welcome to get in touch with us about other support, and the Sustainer Circle helps support that. We have 5 prayer cycles, which some of you may have already availed of, which we've been releasing over the years. And they are week-long prayer cycles of morning and evening prayer. And if you subscribe to our daily emails, you can see where we are praying all together. And we're working on a 6th prayer cycle, which will be out next spring. And these are completely free resources, but we pay all of our musicians and our writers and the people who produce all of this. So it's wonderful to have that support. The 6th prayer cycle is called Cultivating Seeds of Liberation. And so each day is going to focus on a theme like love, joy, justice, peace, etc. I'm very excited about that. And then our Lift Every Voice book club, which is to highlight and amplify contemplative writers of color. And I co-host that with Claudia Lovemeyer, and that's another free resource. So we offer an awful lot of wonderful free programs for the community, which I'm grateful for. So I'm not going to go through all of the levels, but just to know that there are these 4 levels, and the first one being the most financially accessible one is the Dancing Monk level. If you want just automatic registration for all the contemplative prayer services that happen monthly, our centering prayer happens monthly. And then we're very excited this year to be starting a new thing, which Melinda is instrumental in helping happen. We have about 42 Dancing Monk icons now. You can see the one of Benedict there in the middle. Marcy Hall is the artist. And so basically, approximately every week or so, there'll be a reflection on the dancing monk whose feast day it is on that particular day, with a little just short snippet of their story, a reflection question. And then Melinda's created some beautiful creative practices and prayers. And we'll hear one of those prayers later in this session. So August 3rd was the feast day of Dervla. So that was another reason why I brought her in today. Yeah. And John, my beloved husband, writes wonderful scripture reflections from the perspective of Hildy, who is our cheeky monkey mascot. If you want to know more, we'll have to bring Hildy up at some point. But they're scripture reflections of beautiful depth with a very playful kind of humorous perspective. So those are the different levels. There are 4 different levels depending on how many programs you want to support, if you're able to. And then the other program I wanted to highlight today is Writing as a Spiritual Practice, which is a 28-day series, which starts on Monday. So Monday, I'm leading a 2-hour live retreat, kind of like this session on Zoom, where we'll work with breath prayer and Lectio Divina, and we'll explore a variety of different practices. And then for 27 days following that, there will be a daily video that we've created, and I lead you through about a 20-minute practice each day where you have breath prayer and you have Lectio Divina with one of my poems, and you have a writing invitation the way you did today. And they're each on different themes, and the weekly themes are there: attuning with the heart, sacred rhythms, coming into wholeness, and following the call. And there's for this live version, there's a facilitated forum so you can share your writing in community with others. And we have wonderful facilitators being there with you present for that. Let's see. I just want to check the chat here. And thank you, Melinda, for posting those links. And yeah, so the first tier of the Dancing Monk level, I think, is $300 for the year or $30 a month for 10 months. So you can also do it by monthly payment if that works better for you. So let's talk about a couple more programs coming up. And I want to share I have a book coming out. I know another book. Jamie Marich, Dr. Jamie Marich, who is one of our Wisdom Council members, she's going to be doing a 2-hour writing your spiritual memoir retreat. She is publishing her own spiritual memoir, which I've gotten to read already, and it's really powerful. It's called You Lied to Me About God, and it really explores about spiritual abuse from her own story and perspective. But the retreat is to invite you into writing your own spiritual memoir, and it comes right at the end of the writing retreat that's starting Monday. So if you wanted to combine those, if you're really loving the writing, that's great. And then I know a lot of you love working with archetypes, and we are offering a series starting in September where we're going to focus on the orphan, the fool, the sovereign, and the prophet. And so archetypes are essentially kind of energies that exist at the level of our kind of unconscious, the collective unconscious, and they are images and symbols that appear across cultures. And we can access and cultivate these different energies as ways to empower ourselves, particularly in the context of this retreat for creating new beginnings in times of unraveling. So I think we can all agree that there are lots of things unraveling at the moment. And the idea of apocalypse or end times is also an invitation to think of beginning times as well. So we're going to explore that too. And then just a couple more things upcoming is the Francis and Claire Sacred Art of Friendship. Simon and I are going to lead that together, a 2-hour retreat. Very excited for that. Simon has such a deep love of Francis, and I've been falling in love with Claire for the last 5 years since I visited Assisi in 2019 and discovered this whole new depths to her that I hadn't known before. So, and she was quite ill in the last part of her life, and she basically ran her abbey from bed, which is because I have chronic illness is what I do a lot of the time. So I have a great love of Claire and her persistence and endurance and faith and spirit and all of that. And then we're returning, to our monthly prayer, centering prayer sessions with Therese Taylor Stinson, who's one of our Wisdom Council members, on Wednesday, September 18th. And Simon and I will be back with our monthly contemplative prayer services in October. So, and then the last thing I'm going to share with you here for the moment, and then I'll field any questions that you might have, is my newest book. And I'm very excited. Many of you will be familiar with this material because I've been teaching this Midwinter God program for many, many years. And so now I've put it into a book and expanded it a bit, Encountering the Divine in Seasons of Darkness. And so it's a book essentially about how do we welcome in the winter seasons of our lives as having the potential for grace and transformation, while also really honoring things like shadow work and grief and honoring the difficult emotions. So one of the chapters I added in there is on spiritual bypassing and shadow work. So I'm very excited about that. And if you are interested, pre-orders really help with the book. So that would be lovely. And Simon and I are hosting a book launch on September 16th, also on our calendar, and that's a free event. So if you want to come and just bask in some wonderful music from Simon and hear me talk more about darkness, you'd be very, very welcome for that. So I also asked John if he might come up just to share Hildy with you. Is that okay, John? Yeah, he's got his video off. So let me bring him up here for a moment. So those of you who might be curious, this first of all is John, my beloved husband.
Hello.
We are celebrating our 30th anniversary in 2 weeks, so I'm very, very excited about that. And then we have a little cheeky monkey. So a few years ago, I thought, oh, wouldn't it be great to have a little monkey mascot? And we found her in a thrift shop on the Feast of St. Hildegard. She was just sitting in the window, and I went into the thrift shop and asked, how much is the monkey in the window? I literally asked that. And the woman laughed and she said, oh, she's not for sale, but you can have her for €1. And so then we sent her off to the States, where a friend of ours um, actually created that little green robe for her, inspired by Hildegard and her love of the greening power of God. So Hildy is a cheeky monkey, and she is a reminder of all the ways that we are to not take ourselves too seriously. So I hope you enjoy a little window into Hildy. So we don't always share her publicly, just have some reflections here and there. So when will the daily writing videos be posted? They are posted each day automatically. I think you get your notification at midnight, or based on where where you're where you've set your location. Sorry. Oh, then Melinda just answered that exact same question. Great. Can't wait to read this one. Where do we pre-order? Lovely. Yeah, it's always lovely to see John. He doesn't often come on the video part. He does more of the writing and behind the scenes. Thank you for the congratulations. I want a Hildy. Yeah, I think we could probably start a little line of cheeky monkey, paraphernalia for our Abby. So anyway, I'm enjoying all of that lovely energy, and thank you for all of your support. Um, when do the forums happen connected to the 28-day writing retreat? They're open all the time, so you can just share whenever you can make a commitment each day to watch the 20-minute video, and in that 20-minute video is a 5-minute kind of contained writing practice, but of course you can keep writing after that. But today's session gives you a little bit of a sense of what that would be like, to have the breath prayer and the Lectio Divina and the writing practice with the instrumental music from Simon. And then you can share anytime you want, day or night. It's a asynchronous forum. And will the book launch be online? Yes, definitely, definitely. Everything we're doing at the moment is online, and you can register for any of these things, and you'll be sent recordings if you're not able to join live, because we live in an age of the miracle of technology. And while it may present its issues and challenges at times, it is also an incredible gift and grace to be able to join together like this and feel our hearts connected across both time and space. Because I truly believe that even if you're not here live and watching the recording, we're still connected, because we step into that, across the threshold into this more liminal space where our hearts are joined, and time really does not matter in that space. It's in Kairos time. All right, friends, any other questions? Yes, there is a place to view the videos. I will, if Melinda doesn't find it right away, then I will find it for her and we'll send it out with the recording. But yes, she has 4 beautiful videos. Actually, if you Google Grace Wells Lunasa, it'll probably come up for you. But yes, there are others as well. Lovely, lovely. Any other questions before we move to our closing prayer? Let's give that a moment. So, my friends, Thank you for that, Mary. I'm so grateful for your appreciation, truly. It really sustains me, and the work just brings me a lot of joy to be able to connect like this. All right, so we have a closing prayer, and I'm going to bring Melinda up to read it because Melinda, in addition to being a magician when it comes to keeping the Abbey organized and running smoothly, uh, she is also a really gifted and beautiful writer. And she's written a lot of prayers for our prayer services and our prayer cycles. And for this series, as part of the Sustainer Circle, she's writing a prayer for each of the feast days. So this is the prayer that is for Saint Dervla, and I asked Melinda if she'd come up to read it, so that those of you who are new can also experience Melinda's lovely presence. So Melinda, I'm going to bring you up, and I'm going to bring up the prayer. So my friends, let's pray together.
Holy Seer, there is more in this world than we can possibly imagine. Draw us out of our limited sight and open us to the wonders of the world. Help us to see our person-to-person relationships and our kinship to plant and animal beings, rocks and water in a new light. Awaken us with holy surprise to the vision of love you hold for all creation. And may this new way of seeing sustain us in our work for a more kind and just world.
So my friends, thank you so much. And it's really wonderful to be here with you. And yes, our next free event will be the book launch in September. And we hope that we'll see you at many of our events. Again, if financial issues prevent you from registering, just send an email to us and we will support you in joining our programs. So we're very grateful. We'll include that closing prayer. We'll include the slides that you saw today as a PDF when Melinda sends out the recording. So you'll have that as well. So friends, I am so grateful for each one of you, truly. And I send you lots of love and lots of blessings. And hopefully we will see you again very soon.